Hey there folks, Pliskin by 51mm, and tonight I figured I would do a video on the Nitro 12 gauge shotgun that we own and have had for quite a while. I'm not sure who owned it prior to my dad. I don't know if it belonged originally to my grandpa or my great uncle Charlie, but this shotgun is pretty old, as you can tell by the metal, and it's pretty worn. And the Nitro Hunter shotguns, from everything I've read, are pretty old anyway. They was like started making the early ones in like the 1900s, early 1900s, I think. Now, I'm not going to know everything there is to know about the shotgun. I'm just basically going to run down some of the facts and stuff that I learned and just kind of give you guys an impression and stuff of the one that we have, because I have looked all over the place and I've learned a little bit about them, but there were several different companies from what I read and found out that made these shotguns here. So I'm just going to run down what I know about this one, and you know, just give you the facts and stuff and my uses with it, because I have used this shotgun a lot. I'm not going to lie, I've used this shotgun quite a bit, and it was actually the first shotgun that I used that got me into shotguns, or got me used to a shotgun, because like it was the first one I'd ever shot, and that's what got me used to them, like the recoil impulse of a shotgun. So anyway, here we go. Alright. The barrel on this particular one, this particular Nitro Hunter here, is 31.05 inches long, from back here at the chamber down here to the very end of the barrel. It's 31 inches long, and as you can see, I can't even get all of the shotgun on camera just sitting here. I'm doing it in here on my bed because the gun room, all the tables are full. We went to the range earlier and we've been doing a lot of reloading and brass prepping, so there was no room to do it in there, so I figured I'd sit in here and do it on my bed. But as you can see, I just have my Winchester Model 1200 here as an example of how much bigger the the Nitro Hunter is in comparison. See, the Model 1200 has an 18-inch barrel, and the Nitro Hunter, of course, like I showed, has a 31-inch barrel, so it's a pretty long shotgun. From what I have found is that these were either made in Virginia or Kentucky. There was two companies that made them, and then there was the Nitro Hunter and the Nitro Express, I believe. I could be wrong on that. I'm not really going to go into like the whole detail. Like I said, I'm not going to go into the whole details of who made them and whatnot. But they came out of either Virginia or Kentucky, and one of the companies that made them got bought out by Ithaca. And see, the way this one would work is you would, flip this switch back here and load a shell into the chamber and then close it. And this lever here, it can open the shotgun either way. It's ambidextrous. See, I can turn it this way and it would open, and then I can turn it this way and it will open. And then it's got a hammer, kind of like my old H&R, and you'd pull that back and then you just pull the trigger when you're ready to fire. Yep, pretty simple. And then this one has, according to my dad, he said it's called a rollover or extra full choke. See, the barrel is tapered off. See how it has like this taper here? It kind of it's a bigger diameter back here and then tapers down to a smaller diameter. It's been choked pretty well. And according to him, it's either called an extra full choke or a rollover. That's how he explained it. And I tell you, it'll take birdshot and throw it a pretty damn good long ways in a pretty tight pattern and a long distance. I've killed dozens upon dozens of squirrels with this 12 gauge. Back in my middle school to high school days, when me and my dad would go squirrel hunting a lot, he would have me take this Nitro Hunter 12 gauge, and he would have the CZ 452 2E ZKM rifle. And depending on what we were doing, sometimes he would load up with the CZ, other times I would have the CZ, and then he'd have the Nitro Hunter, and vice versa. But most of the time, I was the one that carried the 12 gauge, this Nitro Hunter. And it's got a pretty good ejection too. When you open that up and this breech back here falls down, that plunger there will take a shell and just absolutely chuck it out of the chamber, which is a great feature to have on something like this, because that allows you to reload it pretty quick. But back in like middle school, high school, when me and my dad would go squirrel hunting, like I said, he would have the CZ22 bolt action rifle, and then I'd have the 12 gauge, and we'd go either to the church farm or the other places that we hunt and go squirrel hunting. And he would have the CZ 452 2E ZKM, you know, for the longer range shooting, like he could snipe a squirrel out of the tree at a longer distance, and then I would be the up close and personal. I could get him up close in the tree, and then he could get them at a longer distance that I wasn't able to get them with the 12 gauge, and that's how we would used to run it. We haven't went squirrel hunting in a long time. Particularly because the woods that we go to, we never see them anymore. The squirrels have ran off, or we just ain't ever out there at a good time. But anywho, that's how we would roll. And I remember one time specifically, we was hunting out of an old cemetery, just kind of passing through. And I had this old Nitro Hunter 12 gauge, and I had a big old shot shell bird shot in there. I think it was a reload. And we was walking through this old cemetery. Now this old cemetery, I'll have to take a video of it someday, but it's been there since like the late 1800s. I think one of the headstones in it or something said 1887. But we was just passing through, just kind of sitting there, you know, because it's up a hill. And I had the Nitro Hunter, and I see a squirrel on a tree branch up above the cemetery, but it's out kind of over the hill. And he's covered in brush and stuff, and my dad couldn't get the CZ 452 2E ZKM. That's a mouthful, especially once you remember off the top of your head. But he couldn't get the CZ up and shouldered quick enough, and so I aimed the front bead of this Nitro Hunter on top of that squirrel on that tree branch, and I fired the Nitro Hunter, and that bird shot, I swear to goodness, it peeled all the branch and foliage and leaves away from that branch that the squirrel was on. And then that squirrel, it looked like Casper the Ghost ran up there and then just drop kicked that squirrel. Like it looked like Peyton Manning or Eli Manning or one of the NFL football players, just like how they run up and drop kick a football. It looked like that, but that squirrel was the football. And it absolutely just took that squirrel and flung it for a mile across that hill and down into the valley. I'll never forget that as long as I live, but I did it with this shotgun here. And now see, let me move my Model 1200 here. I have to kill some squirrels with that sometime. Now see, I'll try to orient this as good as I can. There is a notch back here in the receiver. This U-shaped notch, and it allows you to line up this back part of the receiver with that front notch there up on the front. Kind of acts as a rear sight. Oops, I bumped something. Shotgun is so long. But it allows you to line up that front bead there, acts kind of like a rear sight for that front bead, and it allows you to get a really good target acquisition and line up on a squirrel or something really good. I'll put that back. The difference between these two is pretty well obviously night and day. I mean, my Winchester Model 1200 is a pump action. I love this shotgun. It's worked fine. I still need to do a takedown video on how to show how to take one apart. There's a problem with mine though. There's a problem with my Model 1200. But the difference between them, night and day, of course, is a pump action like I said. But this has almost like a home defense shotgun barrel. For those of you who are new and haven't seen my Model 1200 Winchester 12 gauge, this has a modified home defense barrel. It's 18 inches exactly. And it actually says over here on the opposite side, let's see, that this was full choke at one point. And it was much longer, a much longer barrel itself, the Model 1200s at one point. But whoever owned it before me, whoever owned the Model 1200 before I did, cut it down and then rebeaded it. And they did a pretty good job, and I actually really like this little 18-inch barrel. It's good for home defense, and that's kind of what I bought it for, kind of a multi-purpose, you know. Could go hunting with it and then could defend myself here at home with it if I need to. But I almost imagine if it hadn't been modified, I about bet the barrel would have been as long as the Nitro Hunters, maybe. Well, anyway, I figured I'd do this little video on the Nitro Hunter because the initial video I did on it, where I shot it out at the church farm, has over 700 views now, and I figured I'd do this little video. It's not really a closer look video where I'd go into full detail and depth, you know, detailed analysis on it, but I figured I'd just, you know, talk about it a little bit and some of my personal experiences. It's not a review, and it's definitely not a you know, a closer look video, because I'd have to research it a whole lot more, and I plan to one of these days, but I figured I would talk about it some in detail here a little bit, kind of let you all know I'm still, you know, going to be talking about this old shotgun. I had been meaning to do this video for a while, but I just hadn't had time, and I forgot. So, you know, forgive me for that, and I've had all sorts of other videos I had planned, but just ain't got around to. And I will one of these days. I just have stuff come up frequently here and there, and that requires some time of the day taken, you know. So anyway, that was a little bit about the Nitro Hunter 12 gauge shotgun. One of the best in my opinion. It's very easy to use. In my opinion, it's like almost kind of like the AK-47 of shotguns. Now it's just me. Maybe I have that opinion because this was the first shotgun I ever, you know, shot and, you know, got used to them with, and, you know, learned how to shoot a shotgun was with this shotgun. It doesn't recoil that bad with birdshot, but that's all I've been able to shoot through it because you cannot put high brass in this Nitro Hunter. At least to my knowledge. My dad, he's told me on several occasions never to run high brass through the Nitro Hunter, so I never have. Good shotgun. It doesn't recoil that hard, at least from what I've felt shooting it. And it was the, you know, the first shotgun I ever shot. And I've kind of had I'm more of a rifle guy. I prefer rifles, but I have an interest in 12 gauges too. So it all started with this one. Well, anyway, this has been Pliskin by 51mm, and I'll see you all in the next video.